Hi, everyone. So, I wanted to come to you guys today and bring a message that's titled Put a Purpose on It. And I know we are in a difficult season. You may be in a difficult season right now. Um, Uncharted territories, things that aren't usual. And it can just be a really difficult time right now. And I want to encourage you guys to put a purpose on this season. So our memory verse for this week is Jeremiah 29:11. It's one of my favorites. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to bring you hope in a future." And I want you guys to really try to memorize that, because sometimes our plans don't go as we planned, right? That's just life. We set out this plan of, how our kids will be, and then they wind up hanging out with the wrong crowd and getting into the wrong situations. Or we have a plan of how our career will go, and then we lose our job. Or we have a plan of how our marriage will go, and then we're barely hanging on. And this life doesn't always go as we plan it. But we can take heart and be encouraged, because God says He knows the plans He has for us. He's already ahead of us. And they're plans for our good. They're to prosper us, they're not to harm us. But sometimes when we're going through hard situations, like right now with this coronavirus, it's a hard situation for so many. And it doesn't always feel like God has good plans for us, right? Sometimes we say, "Why, God? Like, why would you let me go through this? Or why is this happening in my life?" It doesn't always feel like His plans are good. So I want to challenge you guys today to really think about, first of all, do you trust that God is in the midst of this season, whatever this season is bringing to you? It may be financial hardships, it may be a broken marriage. I don't know what your season is bringing you, but do you trust that God is in the midst of even the hardest things? I know for me, when I think back, last year was probably the hardest year of my life. I made the decision to end up shutting down my fitness studio. And when I think about plans, my plan since I was 15 years old was always to have a successful fitness center, dance studio, and have something that would provide for my family. That was my plan for 10 years. It's what I kept my eyes focused on. And God said, "No, it's time to let that go." And in that moment of doing that, and even now, 5 months down the road, it's a struggle of like, "Why, God? Like, why do things not work out as we intend for them?" So we have to ask ourselves, do we trust that His plan is better? Do we trust that even in the midst of the hardship and the misunderstanding, when we don't understand why things are happening, do we still believe that His plan is better than ours? And if we don't, what lies of the enemy are we letting cloud that? What lies of the enemy are we believing over God's word? For me, it's a feeling of this lie that I'm a failure. I'm not good enough. I didn't succeed at what I set out to do. Satan wants me to believe that over and over. So then I will question why I needed to close down the studio, when really it was part of God's purpose and plan for me to be more present in my current situation, my current season. There's so many things behind the scenes that we don't see that God's protecting us from. Even right now with the virus, if I had a studio, it would be extremely hard, but I don't. God protects us from certain things when we have this plan set in place that doesn't go the way that we want. It's for our good. Sometimes it is for our good, and we really struggle to see that because we are believing the lies of the enemy. So what lies are you believing today? What lies are you believing in your current situation? Are you trusting that God is in the midst of it and that He can use it for our good? And then how can we put a purpose on it? How can we put a purpose on a time when the entire world is shut down? How can we put a purpose on a time when so many people don't have income coming in? How can we put a purpose on a marriage that is split apart? I know my husband and I, we have gone through that. We have gone through that. And in that hardest moment of my life, when we were separated, God used it to grow us both tremendously. In that moment, it was really hard, and it didn't feel like there was any purpose in it. Like, why? God, why? But now looking back, I can see how He used it to grow us. So how can you put a purpose on this current season that's going on? And if you didn't download your worksheet yet, be sure to download it, because I want you to really write out the answers to these questions and really think about them. What lies are you believing? Do you trust that God has a plan, that it's for our good, it's to prosper us, not to harm us, to bring us hope, to bring us a future? And then how can you put a purpose on this current season, even when it doesn't feel like a good season? For me, I put, first of all, be about Jesus, not about me. Usually the reason why we can't find our purpose or find our reason for being is because we put the focus on ourselves instead of on God and what it's supposed to be about, his kingdom and serving others, other people, not about us. So put the focus on him. But the second way I put that I can live this season on purpose is to just be present, to stop focusing on the future and what we can become, and instead focus on this exact season you're in. For me, it's being a mom to a toddler and having another baby in my belly that's making me very sick and very tired all the time. Embrace that season. For you, it may be you've just stepped into retirement and you're learning how to navigate having time on your hands. Embrace that season to go be a light. It may be you're unemployed right now and you're trying to figure out, or you're working from home and you're trying to figure out how to do that, or you miss your community that you're usually surrounded by, your church family. I don't know what your season looks like, but I know your season brings about difficulties because life brings about difficulties. But how can you live this season on purpose? How can you be intentional today to live on purpose, even in the hardship? And for me, it really boils down to being present. Stop focusing on where I might be 5 years from now, or how to grow this business, or how to do that. And instead, just be present in the situation that God has you in, trying to learn from it, trying to grow from it, taking out anything you can that's going to grow you. Because in the trials, there's a verse that says, consider it joy when you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith develops perseverance, and perseverance must complete its work so that we can be mature and lacking nothing. I don't know about you, but I don't want to lack things in my life. I want to be mature, complete, all that God has called me to be. And the only way we can do that is to go through those trials with joy. That's not an easy thing to do, but go through those trials with joy, trusting that the trials are teaching you perseverance, developing you to become more like God. So live on purpose. Put a purpose on your season right now, even if it is the most trying season of your life. Actually, in fact, if it is the most trying season of your life, decide to live it intentionally, to learn from it, to grow from it, to put a purpose on it, and to trust that God has a plan for you and it's for your good. So ignore the lies of the enemy today. Mark them out, crumble them, throw them away, because it's not truth. The truth is, God has a plan for you, a plan to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you hope in a future. And just because our plans don't play out as we hope doesn't mean that God's plans aren't still there. It doesn't mean that his plans aren't far better and far more than we could ever comprehend or understand. His ways are not our ways. They're higher. So I challenge you today to trust that in the midst of this hard season, to live life intentionally on purpose and to be present. For many of us, that's at home right now. We're stuck at home with this virus. Be present at home. Ask your kids how they're doing. Tell your husband how you're feeling. Stop hiding everything inside and just be present with your family or with whatever life has put in your season right now. Hope this challenges you. I hope this encourages you. And I will see you guys next